So is Jesus God? A lot of people will say this is just a teaching that developed over time. Nobody really believed this until hundreds of years after Jesus's life. Maybe at the Council of Nicaea is when they decided this or something, or it was a teaching that got contaminated over time. However, the truth is that Christians have always believed this, even back to Jesus's contemporaries, the people who lived at the same time as him, the people who watched his ministry, the people who knew Jesus. Even back to then, they believed Jesus is God. For example, in Philippians chapter 2, this is what Paul says. He says, "At the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord, to the glory of God the Father." Now, Paul wrote that down probably about 60 AD, give or take a few years in either direction. However, what scholars believe is that Paul didn't come up with this himself. He was actually quoting a Christian hymn that the church had developed at this time. And so if Paul's quoting an established hymn, that means this hymn was probably written somewhere between 33 AD and maybe somewhere like 55 AD, the 20 years following Jesus' life. And what's so significant about this is that this hymn is actually it's built around a verse in the prophet Isaiah. In Isaiah, this is what God says: "For I am God, and there is no other. By myself I have sworn, from my mouth has gone out in righteousness a word that shall not return. To me every knee shall bow, and every tongue shall swear allegiance." And so these Christians who saw Jesus, who knew Jesus, who were his disciples, who had access to the apostles who knew him best, they wrote a hymn about Christ. And what they did was they took a verse from Isaiah specifically about God himself, and they applied it to Christ. Instead of saying, at the name of, or every tongue shall confess the name of Yahweh as Lord, and every knee shall bow to Yahweh, they said, at the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow, and every tongue will confess that he is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. And so we know that from the very get-go, the Christians who knew Jesus have always believed that this man indeed was God.